Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we'll be talking about Azure Administrator Exam AZ-104. So I'll be sharing some practice exam and questions and answers that can be used when you are preparing for your AZ-104 exam. So let's go through the website and try to understand what all topics are covered and what all topics you need to know prior to giving this particular AZ-104 exam. So, as a candidate for this exam, you should have subject matter expertise in implementing, managing, and monitoring an organization's Microsoft Azure environment. And you should be aware of all these topics, including virtual networks, storage, compute, identity, security, and governance. Also, you should be familiar with OS, concepts of OS, networking, servers, and virtualization. And in addition to that, they also expect that you have experience in these tools and technologies. Like you should be knowing about PowerShell, you should be knowing about Azure CLI, the Azure portal, then Azure Resource Manager templates, also about Microsoft Azure Active Directory, which is a part of Microsoft Entra. So these are some of the things that you should keep in mind and you should prepare for once you are appearing for AZ-104 exam. And now, without any further ado, let's look into the questions for AZ-104. So it is going to be a series of questions which I'll be sharing with you guys. So it will be divided into 5 to 6 parts. And with each part, you will learn more and more about the questions, and you can practice those questions in order to do well in your exam and in order to qualify for the exam. Okay, so let's get started with the questions. So, AZ-104 practice question and answers part 1. So let's look into question number one. So, question number one, it says your company has several departments. Each department has a number of virtual machines. The company has an Azure subscription that contains a resource group named RG1. All VMs are located in RG1. You want to associate each VM with its respective department. What should you do? And your options are A, create Azure management groups for each department. Option B, create a resource group for each department. Option C, assign tasks to virtual machines. Then there is option D, which says modify the settings of the virtual machines. Now let's look into the correct answer and why is it so. So the correct answer is we should assign the tasks to the virtual machines. And the reason for this particular answer is to associate each virtual machine with its respective department in the given Azure subscription. So that is what it was the requirement. The most appropriate and efficient way is by using tags. So tags are name value pairs that you can assign to Azure resources, including virtual machines. They help you organize resources and provide metadata to logically group and categorize them. So that is the correct option, which is C, assigning tags to the virtual machines. Now let's look into the next question, question number two. The question is included in a number of questions that depict the identical setup. However, every question has a distinct result. Establish if solution satisfies the requirement. So you should be given certain requirements in different questions, and those requirements will remain same, and the solution that will be provided, it will keep on changing, and you have to tell that whether the solution that is being provided fulfills the requirement or not. Does it meets the goal or not? So that is what the question is about. Now let's see what is the question. So your company has an Azure Active Directory subscription. You want to implement an Azure AD conditional access policy. The policy must be configured to require members of the global administrators group to use multi-factor authentication and an Azure AD joint device, which when they connect to Azure AD from untrusted locations. So basically, a policy needs to be configured for members of Global Administrators Group, and they should use MFAs and an Azure AD device when they connect to the Azure AD from an untrusted location. So this is the requirement, and the solution they are providing is you can access the multi-factor authentication page to alter the user settings. So that is how you can fulfill the requirements. So does this meets the goal or not? Well, the correct answer is B. No, it does not meet the goal. And the reason is the goal is to implement an Azure AD conditional access policy that enforces multi factor authentication and requires an Azure joint device when members of global administrators groups, when they are not actually um, present in the trusted locations. So the solution mentioned in this question is simply accessing the multi MFA page to alter user settings. So this step alone is not sufficient to achieve the desired outcome. Implementing a conditional access policy involves configuring various settings and conditions to enforce the desired security requirements. Now let's look into the question number 3, which is an ongoing series, which is a part of question number 2 itself. So the problem, it remains the same, that you want to configure the for a required members of a certain group, the global administrator groups, with multi-factor authentication and an Azure AD joined device when they connect to Azure AD from an untrusted location. And the solution that is being provided is you access the Azure portal to alter the session control of Azure AD conditional access policy. Does the solution meet the goal? So the correct answer is B. No, it does not meet the goal. To achieve this goal, you would need to configure the appropriate conditions and access controls within the conditional access policy settings. Let's look into question 4, which is again an ongoing question similar to question 3. And now here the solution that is given is you access the Azure portal to alter the grant control of Azure AD conditional access policy. Does the solution meet the goal? And the answers will be one of them, yes or no. And the correct answer is yes, it meets the goal. And the reason it meets the goal is basically because based on this information, the solution described in the question does meet the goal. By accessing the Azure portal to alter the grant control of Azure AD conditional access policy, you can configure the conditions under which access is granted. So in this case, you can set up the policy to require MFA and Azure AD joint device for members of global administrators group when they connect from untrusted locations. Therefore, the correct answer option is A, which is yes, the solution does meet the requirement of requiring MFA and Azure AD joint device for the group connecting from the untrusted locations, the group that they are talking about, which is global administrators group. So the correct answer is yes. Now let's look into the next question, question number 5. Question number 5, it says you are planning to deploy an Ubuntu server virtual machine to your company's Azure subscription. You're required to implement a custom deployment that includes adding a particular trusted root certification authority. Which of the following should you use to create the virtual machine? And the options are A, the new Azure RMVM CMDlet, B, the new AZVM CMDlet, C, the create AZVM CMDlet, D, the AZVM create command. And the correct answer is C. So once cloud init.txt has been created, you can deploy the VM with an Azure VM create CMDlet using the minus minus custom minus data parameter to provide the full path to the cloud init.txt file. And for the reference, I'll leave the link in the description box so you can get in-depth understanding of why this is the correct answer. Now let's look into the next question, question number 6. So question number 6, it says that again this question is included in a number of questions that depict the identical setup. However, every question has a distinctive result. Establish if solution satisfies the requirement. Your company makes a multi-factor authentication for when users are not in the office. So users are basically required to log in through MFA when they are not in the office. The per authentication option has been configured as the usage model. After the equation of a smaller business and addition of the new staff to Azure Active Directory obtains a different company and adding the new employees to Azure Active Directory, you are informed that these employees should also make use of MFAs. To achieve this, the per enabled user setting must be set for the usage model. And the solution that is being provided in this question is you reconfigure the existing usage model via the Azure portal. So, does the solution meet the requirement? Your options are yes or no again. And the correct answer is B. No, it does not meet the requirement. And since it is not possible to change the usage model of an existing provider as it is right now, you have to create a new one and reactivate your existing server with activation credentials from the new provider. Also, I will leave the reference link for this answer so you can go through the explanation. Now, question number 7. A company's Azure solution makes use of MFA, so the question remains the same. There will be a different solution that will be provided for this question answer. So, the per authentication option has been configured as the usage model. After the equation of a smaller business and addition of the new staff to Azure Active Directory obtains a different company and adding the new employees to Azure Active Directory, you are informed that these employees should also make use of MFAs. To achieve this, the per enabled user setting must be set for the usage model. Solution view, you reconfigure the existing usage model by the Azure CLI. So does this meet the goal? Does the solution meet the goal? You have to answer in yes or no. And the correct answer is no, since it is not possible to change the usage model of an existing provider as it is right now. You have to create a new one and reactivate your existing server with activation credentials from the new provider. Now, question number 8. So it is the same question, and this new solution that they're providing is you create a new multi-factor authentication provider with a backup from the existing multi-factor authentication provider data. So that is a solution that they are providing. So does this meet the goal or the requirement? And the options are yes or no, and the correct answer is yes. Since it is not possible to change the usage model of an existing provider as it is right now, you have to create a new one and reactivate your existing server with activation credentials from the new provider. So that is what they are providing as a solution. So the correct answer is yes. Now let's look into question number 9. So your company, so the question is included in a number of questions. So it is a similar type of question, but this is a different question. So your company has an Azure Active Directory tenant named Valent.com that is configured for hybrid coexistence with the on-premises Active Directory domain. You have a server named dir sync 1 that is configured as dir sync server. You create a new user account in the on-premise Active Directory. You now need to replicate the user information to Azure AD immediately. Solution, you run the start AD sync cycle policy type initial partial CMD let. So does the solution meet the goal? You have to answer in yes or no, and the correct answer is yes. And for the reference, this is the reference for which I will leave it in the description box. And the explanation could be that in this scenario, you have a hybrid environment where your Azure AD is configured for hybrid coexistence with an on-premise Active Directory domain. You have created a new user account in the on-premises Active Directory and want to replicate the user information to Azure AD immediately. So the PowerShell CMD lets start AD sync cycle policy type initial. It actually initiates a synchronization cycle for the initial synchronization. This will replicate the newly created user account and its information from the on-premises Active Directory to Azure AD. Therefore, the correct answer to this question is A. Yes, the solution of running the start AD sync cycle policy type initial partial CMD let does meet the goal of replicating the user information to Azure AD immediately. So, therefore, the answer was yes. Now, let's look into the next question. Question number 10. So, the question remains the same. The solution that is being provided now is you use Active Directory sites and services to force replication of the global catalog on a domain controller. So, is this also a way to achieve what we are trying to achieve in this question? And you have to answer in yes or no. And the correct answer is no. And the reason that the answer is no is because the solution mentioned involves using Active Directory sites and services to force replication of the global catalog on a domain controller. However, this solution is not relevant to the scenario and will not achieve the goal of replicating the new user information into the Azure AD. So that's it for today. I hope this video was informative to you. You should watch this video, you should learn the practice question and answers. You should understand why the answers are for what their answers are given in the video. All the best for your exam, and I'll be continuing with this series. I'll be making more videos in this series, so keep watching and please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye bye.